Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to episode 187 of KT Confidential. Today, Ariel and I are chatting about the evolution of real estate, from how we use technology to promote and sell, how buyers are buying, and where and what does real estate look like in the future. Enjoy. Good morning.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. You know what I meant to
I am better, I should say.
Oh, yes, that's right. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Sylvia.
Good to be back.
Sylvia filled in for you while you were away.
Yes.
It's nice to have her first time on the podcast.
Yes.
I think
She did a great job.
She enjoyed her time
It
here.
was actually a good podcast. I watched and I listened.
On two different platforms or at the same time?
Two different platforms. I watched and listened, and then I listened.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, that's what I was trying to clarify. Yeah. So today, you came up with a great topic for today's discussion. And at first, I didn't think there was much to talk about. But as you got into it more, I realized that there have been a lot of things occurring that make sense to talk about it. So today, we're talking about the evolution of buying and selling real estate, specifically talking about technology.
Yeah, I think it's pretty amazing when you think about how we conduct business today.
Yes.
Compared to 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And then it got me wondering last night what that evolution is going to look like in 5 years or in 10 years from now.
Sure. Well, we're already seeing, I mean, there's two sides of it. One is the realtor side of things, like how does it affect their career, how they operate, and also the buying and selling from the home owner's perspective too.
Well, I think it's affected so many things. But my favorite story is always talking to some of the newest realtors about how spoiled they are.
As we were too. With one specific thing is navigation in your car.
Oh, right.
I don't know how they did. I mean, back in the day.
Can you imagine driving around with the Ram McNally? Is that the
what
right?
it was?
Is the right company, Ram McNally?
They must have been much more localized. There's no way that they would have driven to the same extent.
Like you assume the agent already knows where the street is. And
I would think so.
Which is what realtors should do anyway.
Well, I don't know, because now information's far more accessible. There's definitely advantages to being local and having that specialization. But there's so much information readily available that if you have a good head on your shoulders, you can process all of it and come to a pretty knowledgeable decision about real estate values and things like that.
Just going back to the maps and having navigation, though.
Yes.
Reminds me of a story when we first got our cottage, and I invited some of my friends up. And I sent this email, like an invitation, right? And in there was all of the detailed directions.
Why?
The exit. Well, that's what my buddy says, right? He gets there, and he's like, yeah, the drive. I said, the drive was good. He said, yeah, drive was fine, but that's a long, really long
turn-by-turn navigation.
The way I get to the cottage, yes, which is, as you know, very easy. It's really 3 highways and, well, technically 4 highways, and you're pretty well on our street, right? But he didn't read my turn-by-turn detailed email. He said, what the fuck did I need to read your email for? I just put it in my nav.
Right.
However, the nav took him on one of the back streets. So instead of taking Highway 518...
Oh, I like that route.
Oh, it's very scenic.
Yes.
But it's all gravel and bumpy, and depending on the weather, it can be... Anyway, now, when I'm planning showings, just going to that whole thought process of showing properties and maps and navigation. Literally, I sit here in our office, see which properties I'm going to show, send it from my phone to the car, hop in the car, and it's already got the route
Yes.
in there.
Yes. Well, and sometimes
Pre-nav,
you had a big map.
you had to. Actually, you can still print it from the Toronto Real Estate Board and the Oakville Milton Real
Yeah.
Estate
Speaking
Board.
of dated, those things are dire need of updating.
Yeah. Anyway,
So
so navigation certainly has changed real estate, but that's really now. Well, when did nav start
I have
becoming?
no idea. Well, it wasn't even when did it become a thing. There was another phase where
You had the portable ones, and then went into the built-in ones.
well,
in the
you had the
cars.
built-in ones, and those like
If you had the built-in ones 15 years ago, you were driving a pretty luxurious car.
sure, but those maps were outdated in a few months.
Sure. Especially
And
in
you had
Milton.
to spend-
somewhere in Milton.
Yeah, and you had to
Right.
spend a few $100 to $1,000 to get a new DVD with the updated map, which was released once a year.
I'm here for an oil change and an update on my navigation.
Yeah. Anyways, what's more intriguing to me is the technology that has changed the process of buying and selling, because today we've had instances where people will buy our listings. I've not had any buyers that have done this personally, but I've experienced it on our listings where buyers will purchase sight unseen
Oh, for sure.
because of how comfortable they are after seeing all of the multitude of mediums that we provide with video walkthroughs, photos, etc.
Ian, you want to shut that down? The air? Matterport, iGuide, 3D walkthrough. You can literally. I wonder. So here's a thought. You talk about past, present, future.
Yeah.
If in 5 to 10 years, let's use that bracket from now, will we see more and more people buying sight unseen? Like,
Sure.
don't even go to see the property, just buy it sight unseen.
I believe so. But with anything used, there will be things in place to protect them. Like, I don't know why new builders are doing, like, I mean, I haven't been to one recently, but as far as I'm aware, new construction builders, they still require, in most cases, you to go to the sales center to buy.
Not so much anymore.
Really?
Yeah, not so much anymore. When they're doing a launch now, you can do it virtually. Like I think COVID has taught the real estate industry finally to catch up with the times, right?
Yeah, among many others.
Going back to why I think new realtors are spoiled, the biggest reason, you said nav. Well, yeah, that's a good one. DocuSign, electronic signatures.
Yes. One of a realtor in our office used an explanation of why he loves it. He says because he said, I'm on the dock, you sign. So he's at his cottage,
Right.
sitting on the dock while his clients are signing paperwork. But yes, that's a huge convenience.
Yeah. When we started in the industry 11 years ago, it was very commonplace that you would present offers in person.
Yeah.
And
Well, it was required because it wasn't legal to sign electronically.
no, I mean to the sellers.
Okay.
So if you're working with buyers, you're presenting
Oh, I
to
see
the
what you're
sellers
saying.
in person.
Yes.
Yes, obviously anything signed had to be signed and witnessed.
Yeah.
So you're there in person getting things signed. You're printing out 2 copies of these contracts, making sure that you've got everything exactly perfect, because if something was wrong, you'd have to drive back and get it corrected and initialed.
Or you'd bring your clients, which is a smart thing to do.
Potentially.
But it was a huge time waster because if you were competing against...
What if they're working?
Well, yeah,
That happened.
is inconvenient.
But I remember many times sitting in my car from 6 p.m. to midnight while offers were being presented.
It was a huge time waster.
And I had this printed offer sign on the paper, and if there were any changes, my clients, I didn't make them sit there and wait. I sent them to a restaurant, Tim Hortons, sent them home, whatever. Got to go chase them down, get the signatures and initials. And now you can do it all in 30 seconds.
Yeah. You could be negotiating 2 offers at the same time very efficiently.
I'll apologize sometimes. Still a little congested. So
I am too. And for me,
yours is allergies.
well, I don't know. They say my doctor said long COVID is common, and I have inflammation in my lungs still. Probably
Really?
from that, yeah.
I haven't read up on quote unquote long COVID. So for those of you listening, I tested positive for COVID just over 3 weeks ago. Was in bed for 4 days, totally KO'd for 4 days. Went up to the cottage so I wasn't interfering in my family. Luckily, I didn't contaminate anybody else. And for a good week and a half after those 4 days, I was not myself. Finally came back to the swing of things a few days ago, but I'm still, like this morning, I felt like a bag of ass.
Yeah. A lack of energy.
Lack of
is
energy.
common.
Even I've got this brain fog thing happening, and yeah, it's a little weird. So I'm not totally on the ball. Anyways.
You got to fight through it. So I'm interested to hear what you have to say about the future of real estate from the perspective of buying sight unseen, because we've talked about before having a buy now button on,
I
on
was
a
just
website.
going to say that. I think people now that are going to be progressive, like super progressive, I hate that term out of the box, but out of the box progressive thinking that other people, like other realtors, will tell you you're stupid for this idea.
Mm-hmm.
I think those will be the ideas that will be successful in 5 to 10 years.
Sure.
And I think things...
Well, timing is interesting too, though, because there have been companies that came out with technology that was too far. The audience or their demographic of their consumer wasn't ready for it yet.
Right.
So you have to be ready for it. But something like that, yeah, I think a buy now button is appropriate. I think people would agree to it if there were stipulations that permitted a home inspection, gave them some degree of protection. Out in BC, I don't know where they're at with it or if they came to a decision, but they were implementing a cooling off period, much like they do for new condo sales.
Yeah.
So can you imagine that, though? Like, in certain markets, it just wouldn't be feasible.
If you have a motivated buyer that wants to close on the property, it's going to close. If you don't have a motivated buyer, then why are you wasting your time anyway?
Yeah, people get cold feet, though.
Yeah.
So maybe you have a buy now
but maybe
button.
maybe that eliminates people from having cold feet, right? Because now there's too many. There's not enough consequence to having cold feet. Right now.
Now there is.
No, if you have a conditional offer,
if you have conditions, no.
or even if you don't have a deposit herewith, it's upon acceptance. How many times an agent will call you back and say, "Oh, I know you signed the accepted offer."
They're still liable.
They are, but are you going to hold them to it?
In some cases, well, it depends.
Now maybe in a down market,
right,
for a seller, you might.
Well, it depends on what the other offers were.
Right. But I think back to eBay. Let's use this example. I was one of the early adopters of eBay, and I can't remember when that was. It was sometime in the 90s. I want to say maybe mid-90s.
Is that old?
Maybe later 90s. Flo, can you check that to see when eBay was... When did eBay get founded?
I would ask Siri, but she won't tell me because she
you're on
interrupted last time.
Are you on airplane mode?
On.
I'm going to guess 96, 95. I was close. And so I had an account within months of eBay starting. And it was the weirdest thing because that was really, I don't know if you were on CompuServe or AOL or
Right.
server you started your
don't
internet
remember.
life with.
I think
Mine-
I was envious of people that had AOL.
Ian and Flo wasn't even born yet. Ian was 4 years old, 5 years old. So I was 14, 15 in high school, and always, up on technology. And my side hustle at that time was still sports cards and memorabilia. And in CompuServe, there were forums. And there was one forum specifically dedicated to sports cards and memorabilia. And I became kind of what now you would consider like a moderator in a Facebook group. Similar,
Okay.
right? And all of the members of these forums, you would buy and sell and trade with each other. And you would do it all transparently, so it's all documented, right? So if I posted a picture of a Wayne Gretzky card for $4 and Bob made a comment and said, yep, I'll take it, you would send it to Bob. Bob would mail you the money from the US or from Canada. And it was kind of like the spit and handshake, but there was no review system, no accountability. Right. If you sent the card, you didn't send the money, what are you going to do?
You wouldn't wait for the money to come?
Sometimes.
Okay.
Depends who you're dealing with. And then eBay started. But the mass population had never done this with buying and selling.
Right.
Especially online. But then eBay came in and started documenting things, made you had an account, get verified, put your credit card. I can't remember if at that time you had to have, now to have an account, you have to have your credit card information or PayPal information. At that time, I don't think you did. I think it was a one-off thing that you could have an account, you could buy stuff, and they didn't have any of your account information. I could be wrong on that. But there was a verification system in place. You had the ability to review the sellers and the buyers.
Yeah.
And they've changed that dramatically because you could have said whatever negatively, positively, left like full transparency at that time.
So are you saying they're going to sell houses on eBay? Is that where you're going with this?
Oh, they've been selling houses and real estate on eBay for years and years and years, especially in the States.
I was going to say not here.
Florida is quite popular. It's extremely popular for timeshares. So if you get a timeshare you want to offload, eBay is a pretty good...
That's different, though, because you're not buying a piece of real estate.
Well, you're buying a share in a real estate.
But it could be a group of developments or projects, whatever, across the world, perhaps.
Right.
Even.
It's not your name registered on
you're
title.
You're buying into, in that case, more of a corporation than you are a piece of real estate.
What I'm saying is if you look at the way other products and services have been transformed into making life convenient for consumers online, the real estate market really hasn't caught up to that, at least in the Canadian market.
Right. Well, there's instances where it would work, and all of those platforms have return policies and protection for the consumer in case the product isn't what they expected.
Right.
So that's what would need to be in place to make somebody feel comfortable to buy something sight unseen in most circumstances. But in real estate, when you're in a seller's market, that opportunity doesn't generally exist in the way of under, other circumstances. You may be able to include a condition to do a home inspection or mortgage approval.
What if it became mandatory for homes to be pre-inspected?
I don't think pre-inspections would be a thing. Like they're talking about, because I think there's some bias there because the seller's hiring somebody.
So what if it wasn't the seller's responsibility?
Well, you're saying pre-inspection is their responsibility.
Maybe there's some kind of, home inspections and home inspectors really aren't legislated the way they should be and governed the way they should be.
I have no idea. I know that they do have certified programs people go through. I don't know if it's governed or how it's governed, but what they have been trying to do, or one of the things they've been proposing, is enabling, making it a legal requirement that the buyer has the opportunity to do an inspection.
Right.
Which, I don't know if they'd ever be able to pass that, but that would be interesting, because if you're in these hot markets, you lose, the house goes conditional.
As we talk about technology in real estate, I think the virtual world is going to play a big factor in that in the next 5 to 10 years.
Like the metaverse?
Virtual reality.
Sure. I mean, it's already there, just people don't have the goggles, so the masses don't have the ability to do it. But the eye guides, the Matterports, you can use that with those.
By the way, if any of you are listening and you want to experience that, we do have an Oculus here, and all of our properties get the 3D experience. So you can come and visit us at the KT Studio, 75 Main Street East in Milton, and we'll give you that experience so you know what it is like.
But even those platforms aren't at the level they should be.
Right.
Like it's still just...
Well, that's why we're talking past, present, and future.
Right. So the future of those. So currently, those are a bunch of pictures stitched together. Correct. And you click and virtually move forward into another section as you click throughout the property, versus where it will be at some point, you'll be more considered kind of like the metaverse, where you're actually placed into it and you can freely walk around. You're not limited to specific sections.
That'll be really exciting, actually.
Yeah, for sure would.
The one thing you'll never have, though.
What?
Smell-o-vision.
Well, maybe we will.
If that ever happens in our lifetime, I'll be blown away, right?
But
how many homes you walk into and it stinks?
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, I don't know what kind of... I mean, the houses that smell nice will have that option. The houses that smell bad, why the hell would they include that as a feature?
You'll have some kind of a robot taking an air sample, passing it off to a drone, and dropping it off to you.
Yeah.
Sniff this.
Well, the bigger part of it will be not so much the buying and selling experience as much as it will be the ownership aspect of it. It could be tied to an NFT that easily transacts and gets transferred from one person to another.
Yep.
And maybe even that avoids land transfer taxes or something.
I am really curious to see how crypto plays a factor in purchasing and selling. There's already been transactions across the country that were purchased and or sold using cryptocurrency. And how do specifically NFTs end up tying into property?
Well, and governments are coming out with their own digital currency now too.
Just crazy. Hold on to your toonies.
I don't think it'll be interesting to see how that affects the current cryptocurrency market, because what value do they have then?
Right.
Yeah, it's no longer, anyways, that's beyond my realm of knowledge.
It's like
but
Uncle Bob printing money or the Bank of Canada printing money.
Right.
I don't know how much crypto you've got, but I've been extremely cautious with that. I'm old school that way. I'm like, I don't know who Bitcoin is. I don't know who.
Well, the fact that you think it's a who is the first problem.
Yeah, okay. Well, I don't know what. Well, I know what.
No, I know.
But
I'm just teasing you.
You don't know the who.
Sure. Yeah.
What was that? There was recently a coin that, quote unquote, went belly up.
Luna, I think.
Luna?
Dropped like 95% or something like that.
Right. Like hundreds of billions of dollars.
Yeah. And there was some big players in that too.
Yeah.
I think Mark Cuban. Maybe.
Well, he's got enough money that.
Yeah. No, but my point is that even people like that see the value in it, and they're being, I don't say duped. Everybody makes mistakes with investments, but anyways, that's gonna somehow play a role in real estate. Just the way in which it changes hands.
Well, imagine if somehow an NFT was tied to the registration of your property, and in the country that we live in, this beautiful country with some of the best real estate in the world, that over time is guaranteed to appreciate, all of a sudden, the original owner for the rest of their lives receives a royalty on every subsequent sale.
It wouldn't happen.
I wouldn't be surprised.
It wouldn't make sense.
It wouldn't?
No.
If you have, I'll give you an example. Lakefront property in Oakville, like the most demanded, pick the best locations you can think of, hottest locations. You think people wouldn't give, it's kind of like a bidding war, right? Like it's a negotiation thing. If you want me to sell it and you want this prime real estate, I want 2% of the value in perpetuity.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know.
That's why we're talking. What's going to happen in the future? For those of you watching or listening.
That seems far-fetched. So according to your previous statement, maybe it's a thing.
I think real estate is going to change dramatically.
Well, it has to.
In the next 5 to 10 years. I'm really excited to be a part of that. Hopefully we can be some of those early, not adopters, what do you call them?
Yeah, that's right.
No, because I want to be the one making the damn technology, not adopting it.
You need to go to school for that. But it has to change. And one of the, we didn't really talk about it. Millie wants to come on one of the shows with as a Gen Zer with questions that she has about real estate as it relates to the Generation Z people.
Right.
And it's a big topic of discussion.
Save your money. There's my tip for you.
I mean, realistically, though, it is at some point becomes not feasible for them to have home ownership in certain areas. So then the way that will change, I see more, whether it's government, done by the government, or they incentivize builders to have purpose-built luxury rentals. Because, why do you need to own real estate? You can invest in other things too. So I think there will be more options for people as far as their primary residence is concerned.
I 100% agree. Two of the things that I just noted, you've reminded me, I wanted to talk about them. Fractional ownership.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's going to be huge going forward, especially for, is that what she's considered, a Gen Z?
Yes.
And then what are we?
Millennials.
And what's Ian?
Millennial.
You're still in the millennial bracket?
We're at the beginning.
And Florencia?
I'm at the end.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's like 81 to 93 or something like that.
So I'm 80.
Oh, no,
so
it's
what
80
am I?
to 93. 80 to 90. You're just an old fart.
Right.
Yeah.
Man.
I think you're the beginning.
And what was before millennial?
Gen X.
Gen X. Right.
So
I can't keep up
the
with
alternative
these terms.
Millennial is also Gen Y, but everyone calls us millennials.
XYZ. Get it?
Yes. Yeah.
We've catching on.
We have two terms.
Fractional ownership. So you get people helping out with your purchase, potentially. People with money, older people that want to spread out their investment, be a little bit more, have more diversification in their portfolio, right? So if somebody owns property in Nova Scotia, maybe they want to own some in BC, but not be fully invested, become kind of like a mortgage, right? So I think we'll see a lot of manipulation of financing revolving around fractional ownership. So I think Gen Zers will take that on. They'll be more open to that idea. Sure. Like a Gen Xer will be like, oh no, I'm not I'm not going to.
Well, they wouldn't need to because they're already in the market. So why would
Well,
they
potentially,
need
right.
to? Yeah.
But if you turn back the clock and say, 30 years ago, oh, you can only own,
Well, if it was unaffordable at the time, then maybe they would have been open to it.
although timeshares at that time were big, so maybe I'm wrong with that statement. The other thing, tiny homes.
Yeah.
I've talked about that. So, I showed a condo the other day, 500 square feet. I'm walking in it going, man, this is small. That is probably going to be big.
It already
10 years
is in
from
many
now.
cases.
Yeah, depends on what location. You go to Manhattan, you go downtown Toronto, downtown Los Angeles.
Well, and municipalities are pushing higher density.
Yes.
So at some point, it's just going to be...
Well, in Asian countries, I know, they live in extreme, like an
Yeah, but
apartment
you're talking very different...
population,
Well, population, but I mean...
culture.
Sure, I guess all of the above. But also, I mean, I'm not
Size
sure,
of
I'm not
humans?
sure what I'm envisioning, but the conditions of those environments, like, are they nice? Or are you talking like a small little, like what?
Well, my one of my good friends went and taught abroad, and it was in Korea. I don't remember where in Korea, but in a highly populated area, and lived in a pretty small apartment. And
Or maybe it'll be more shared living spaces. Like you have your own little pod where you go to sleep.
like a WeWork apartments kind of thing.
Yeah, you have your own little pod where you go to sleep, and everybody shares the massive...
Communal kitchen.
Kitchen.
And
Hey, that I'm interested in. We should do something with that.
you think there's a market for that?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it
kinda
exists
like
like in
student living.
universities
Yeah.
and student living for adults.
Yeah, people get maybe 150 to 200 square
So
feet.
I obviously, since I'm a high school dropout, I was never part of that university scene, or I don't think I was ever even in like a college dorm or anything. I'd have to think back, and if I did, I probably forgot for good reason. Have you been involved with that? And I don't know if Flo and Ian have.
I went to college for 1.5 semesters.
So I'm just thinking, like, let's talk about this because this is an interesting idea. You have this communal living kind of dorm style for adults.
But you know where that's going to be.
Would it be fractional ownership? Hang on. Would it be fractional ownership? So you have like
Could be government housing. I don't know.
8 people living in this adult dorm, and each of the 8
It'll be on
own.
a fucking spaceship. Right.
Now that's really future.
No, it's not.
Yeah,
I don't think it is.
We're selling fractional ownership on Mars. Do you want to share a bathroom and a kitchen?
Exactly.
Right.
It'll happen. Why do you
go.
think Elon is pushing Mars so much? Because
We-
he believes that populating
We are
outside of
really
Earth is
talking
a
about the future
necessity.
of real estate here on KT Confidential, the real estate podcast.
It might be beyond our
Can't
time.
wait to see people's comments about this podcast.
I've sold all I can on Earth. I'm off to go sell real estate on the moon.
Anyways, sky's the limit.
So going back to this adult dorm kind of idea, whether it's fractional ownership or not, right? Like you're saying there's limited space to build. So instead of having 8 kitchens, 8 different homes, we're going to have one home. You have your own sleeping pods.
Yeah.
The place looks great. It's got shared Wi-Fi, shared whatever.
Yeah.
You're sharing the kitchen. What happens if one person is a real slob?
Well, those are problems that you have to get dealt with. There's going to be, it'll be managed by a corporation. That there will be somebody that is living there or in charge, like a dorm counselor or whatever, manager, whatever you want to call them, and they would have the responsibility of keeping order. And there are rules to living here. If you want to live here, you have to follow these rules. If you don't, you get kicked out.
So no fractional ownership then, because if you own it, they can't kick you out.
No, it's not ownership. It's rental.
Rental.
Yes, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, because at some point that's the only feasible option. Like, it's just going to be too expensive to own.
That would be kind of cool if you had like something that was built to not dorm standards, to like luxurious, more modern standards. Like you had a beautiful kitchen, right? With kind of bunket, what are they called? Bunket seatings and built-in stuff and Wi-Fi technology, appliances, like modernize that. But then your personal living space is super small.
Right.
There might be something to that.
Well, I think all of the above have a place.
Maybe that piece of land you want to buy at the corner of Steeles and Brawny, maybe that's your perfect location for it.
There you go.
There you go. Now you found a use for that.
Yeah, I don't know if
Anybody want to lend us $2 million?
it's 3. We can
It's
negotiate
3?
down to 2.
Yeah. Plus the $24 million it'll cost to build the thing.
Yeah. Anyways, that's all I've got. But I'd like to know what people think about the future of real estate from a buying and selling perspective as it stands currently. And long term, what is home ownership, or what sort of living arrangements do you think we'll see?
And how comfortable are you with crypto, NFTs, anything that it's going to happen. It's not a matter of if, it's when. How comfortable are you getting into all of that when it revolves around real estate? And in the next episode...
Well, it won't revolve around real estate to a serious degree until there's
people
some
have that comfort
more
level.
Yes.
Right.
Thank you for helping out there. I couldn't figure out what I was gonna say.
Next episode, we're going to talk about stupid shit that realtors have to deal with. I'm excited for that one. Thanks for listening.
There you have it. Thanks for listening to episode 187 of KT Confidential. If you enjoyed the podcast, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you next week.